And good afternoon and welcome to Beckeltar Live. I am your host, Beckeltar, and welcome. Going to do a reaction to the latest news from Ashes of Creation in regards to their update on the Alpha 1 schedule. I'm going to try and keep this one really short. In fact, I could sum up my entire video with I called it. I said it was more than likely going to happen, and I think I've said that over the last 2 or 3 months when it comes to Ashes of Creation, in that they're not ready for an Alpha 1 update or an Alpha 1 period. The game's just not in an alpha state, and I've explained why in previous videos. Feel free to go watch those. And let's get into the letter, because if I just start going off now, it's going to be an hour-long video before I get to anything. Because I like to share ideas and opinions. Okay, so here we go. Glorious Ashes community. Over the past few months of testing, we have made significant progress with our Alpha 1 features and performance. The preview tests in December and February provided valuable data that my team has been working diligently to iterate upon in order to improve our performance and diagnostic capabilities. But yet, we have seen absolutely no footage of any of that. None. And I do believe we were promised that we were going to get some kind of footage from Ashes of Creation, from those weekends, of people playing and enjoying the NDA of the Alpha 1 preview, which we have not seen. Why not? That seems eerily suspicious, does it not? In our February testing, we hit some challenges and have spent the last few weeks addressing those issues. Of course, at the onset of our Alpha 1 schedule, we acknowledge that we may see some changes as we move through the different phases and undiscovered work becomes visible. Right, so catching bugs, glitches, other issues. As you add more people to the servers that you have, it puts more stress and strain on the databases and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to happen. Absolutely 100%. And like I've said before, they're trying to marry Unreal Engine, which is not an MMO engine, and a bunch of other custom made stuff, and bring them together and make them work functionally together. Going to be issues. Not a surprise at all. As we have been addressing these challenges, my team has determined that additional polish is needed in order to guarantee a smoother Alpha 1 testing phase. And yesterday, I approved this NDA extension. So this is probably the most worrying statement, most worrying sentence in here. There are people out there who are angry. Don't be. This is part of development. There's going to be delays. Okay, that's just normal. It's natural. It's part of the game development process. It's like anything, right? When you're trying to build something that's brand new, never really been done before, and there are a lot of things that they are trying to pack into this MMO that have not been done. You know, there are elements that have been done before in other games. I mean, I've said AOC is basically plagiarizing a dozen other video games with all of the different things it's bringing in. But at the same time, you can only go so long before kind of everything's already been done by somebody else. So you're just reinventing the wheel, right? And that's not necessarily a plagiarization, right? So, for example, they want to bring the planet side combat in where you can have 500 people on a side or 1,000 people fighting, right? They're talking 250 on each side for 500 people battles, but they've said they could do more, and they want to push that to do more for sieges and stuff like that. So that's already been done, and they want to put that in Ashes of Creation, but they want to make some changes to it. They want to make some twists. You're going from a stone wheel to a wooden wheel to a rubber tire, right? And it's still round, right? It still does the same thing a wheel does, but they want to try and make it do it better. And a rubber wheel is a hell of a lot better than a stone wheel, I think. Wouldn't you agree? Another thing is I've seen a lot of people who seem to be acting surprised that there would be a delay. Don't be. Delays are normal, naturally going to happen, especially in an alpha phase, right? If we were getting into a beta and this happened, then I think there's some legitimate cause for concern, right? I mean, because betas is really where you're just stress testing the servers itself, right? You're not trying to test the game or the core features of the game. You've already done that in the alphas and your other quality control. Like I've explained in previous videos, this game is not Alpha 1 ready. I think, like I said, that they feel obligated to do it. If you look at the Kickstarter, when the Kickstarter said that the game was supposed to be closer to release and stuff like that. I think it was like 2018 or something like that. So really, I mean, you have 2017 from the Kickstarter to now. That's 4 years. Your average game's 4 to 5. Well, honestly, your MMOs are probably 5 to 7 years of development time. So we're only in that 4 year plus area. Um, you can look at the YouTube videos and see what all the first videos are and stuff like that. And you can kind of see some of the progress that they've made. Recently, I read something about where I think Steven or somebody saying, yeah, you can watch all the progress that we've made. I think actually was in the previous video. I'm like, no, actually we can't because you're not showing us any progress. You're basically doing a PvP battle on a beach using GM hacks so that all of your life and mana is increased. And no, you're not showing us anything. Sleight of hand. I do find that very concerning. And this is where we get to the sentence that I think is also very concerning. And this kind of comes down to Steven consistently. He's a hype. I wouldn't say he's a hype guy because he doesn't really hype, but he's definitely play the positive card and push the positive card a lot. It's almost like lying through omission, right? There's a lot of that. You can be truthful, but if you don't give the entire truth, are you then lying by omission? And I think there has been a lot of lying by omission. Now, again, we're not developers, we're just fans. So we are not due any of that information. They are not obligated to give us any of that information, except for they've declared multiple times that they are the most open and transparent development ever. I've heard somebody say that, and I would not even rank them in the top 5 of the most open and transparent when it comes to development. And again, it comes down to Steven's just too positive, right? He doesn't want to admit failure. Clearly, he's got a lot of money riding on this. He's in the past said people want refunds, ask for them, he'll give them. So that puts a lot of money on the line. So in a way, his motivation, honestly, is to promote the game, to bring people into it, to try and generate support. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are funding this game. He's putting up the initial capital, but really in the first 6 months or the first year of the game's launch, he will make back almost all of his money and then some. Right? So ultimately, we are funding this game. He's just backing the initial bit of it. And I'm sure they've probably made millions of dollars since, with the Kickstarter and everything else they've done since then. They probably have made millions of dollars. So he's on the ropes for a little bit of money. But it's every time somebody comes in and buys one of those pre-order packages, that's less money he needs to promise to the game, ultimately. Now, hopefully, and I feel very confident, they are going to bring this game to fruition. They're pretty much too deep, I think, to really cancel it. And again, Steven would be out of pocket a crap ton of money, and nobody wants that. We don't want that, right? Because that's just not fair to us. So, but what I do find concerning, and again, this comes down to Steven being too positive, and it's over-promising. I even made this comment in the February development update, where you had Margaret and Jeff, saying, we have a long road ahead. We have many, many updates. After Steven had basically, went on about how great progress has been, and really giving that inference that this game is closer to where it's not, right? He's trying to really sell that this thing is getting into alpha, and it's not alpha. This game is not alpha 1 ready. And I've been saying that lots, and it's obvious, right? And I'm okay with that. But what does concern me here is where he says, my team is determined that additional polish is needed. Now, polish, right? What is polish? Polish is, well, let's use my beautiful Oxhorn mug here, right? It's nice and shiny, it's clean, it has almost no fingerprints on it. But when they first took this horn off of the ram, that, you know, it didn't have the wood thing on the bottom. It probably wasn't shaped because they used some sort of a heat burning to curve the handle. There's, you know, obviously a little bit of resin or something on here. It would have looked very rough, right? They would have had to have probably sanded this down to get it fairly smooth, and then they would have polished, right? They probably would have buffed it out a bit, and then they'd put on whatever lacquer or whatever, you know, is on it, to make it look all shiny, and it probably seals in the horn as well. So you know, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to oxidize necessarily, but if it's open to the elements, it will deteriorate, because a horn is ultimately, it's a bone. It's still made out of biological material. It'll still weather. So before this was polished, it would still function, right? They glue the bottom on, get the handle. It would still function as a mug, but it wouldn't be shiny. It wouldn't look like it does. That's what the polish is. Sure, there's some truth here, but something is being omitted. My team is determined that additional polish is needed. Well, you polish a finished product, right? You don't start polishing the car before you've put the engine in, the transmission, the suspension, right? You do all that after, right? When you're done working on the car, or whatever you're doing, whether you're working with wood, or you know, you don't do the polish halfway through the job, because that polish is going to get smudged, it's going to get scratched, it's going to get dented. You know, stuff happens when you're building stuff, right? You do the polish at the very end, because in a way your polish hides some of the imperfections, or sometimes those imperfections are charming and you want to bring them out to the surface. And so polish can do that kind of stuff. There clearly are issues with their Alpha 1 build. That's to be expected. What is an Alpha 1? An Alpha 1 is bug testing, right? It's where you feel confident enough that the foundation of the game is operational, right? It will do, for the most part, what you hope or expect it to do. So what you do in an Alpha 1 is then you throw a bunch of people at the game and you say, listen, we want you guys to test this. We want you to test this. We want you to test that, right? Go do these specific things, and the players go and they hammer away, right? It's not playing a game, right? An alpha is not a playable version of a game, right? There might be a few quests. Your combat stuff will work a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's not meant to be a playable version of the game. It's meant to test the foundational elements, the core structures. It's the initial databases. It's making sure that, you know, your taskbars and spells will kind of do what they need to do. It's not about, hey, I'm going to go and level from 1 to 10 in an alpha. You should not really be trying to do that. And if you can do that bug free in an alpha, you're probably not trying to help test a game, because an alpha is going to have bugs. It's going to have a lot of bugs, because the developers can only see so much, right? They can only create pathing and stuff like that. It's the players that get in with trying to do things that were maybe never intended, or doing things that the in-house quality assurance team can't do or replicate. They're not going to have 1,000 people trying to do exactly the same thing, and that could trigger a flaw somewhere, a bug, when they had maybe 20 or 30 people trying to do that same thing, it just wasn't enough to make something apparent. And different people are going to try things in a different way. So I don't know. Again, I think this is just a bad word, a misphrasing, additional polish. No. You have bug fixes. Okay, it's bug fixes. Um, so, anyways, let's continue. I know that this is not what you want to hear, but my team and I are committed to excellence for Ashes of Creation, and honestly, this is the purpose of these alphas and betas, to discover issues and address them as early as possible. I am committed to bringing you along on that journey, regardless of the good, bad, or ugly. No, you're not. Because if you're committed to bringing us along on that journey, regardless of the good, bad, or ugly, then you would proceed with the Alpha 1 as scheduled. You would not be delaying it. Because that's the ugly. So what you're doing is you're actually trying to hide the ugly. You're trying to hide the bad. That's not being open, honest, and transparent, in my opinion. And this is an opinion show. So that's what this is. This is meant to be. I'm just looking at the words that were given here. As a result, I wanted to let you know that our Alpha 1 playtest schedule has shifted accordingly. We'll be prolonging the NDA testing based on data collected during our February Alpha 1 preview. This means that our non-Alpha 1 preview is now scheduled to occur from May 14th to May 21st, and our Alpha 1 test is scheduled from June 1st to June 30th. Intermittent downtimes may occur during weekends for updates as we patch in new bug fixes and content changes. As eager as our team is to open the gateways to Vera for you, we ultimately feel this is the right decision in order to make sure everyone can test the features we'd like to focus on during Alpha 1. So this, I think, is also very telling. Right? This is an honest statement that there's not much to read in between the lines here, but what this is saying, again, we ultimately feel this is the right decision in order to make sure everyone can test the features we'd like to focus on during Alpha 1. So it goes to what I just said, right? We want players to test XYZ. What they've determined is that XYZ are not in a state that even allows them to be appropriately tested. There's still issues probably in the engineering between their code and Unreal Engine. I watch a lot of people who do Unreal Engine stuff on YouTube, and many of them have commented that Unreal Engine by itself, standalone, it's fantastic. But when you try to add things to it, life can get very interesting. I have to trust their word because I'm not a developer. I'm just aware of the process, and I've talked and interviewed with a lot of developers over the years, and I think I have a pretty good idea of kind of some of the things that go around. So that happened there. So basically, yeah, what this says is they have Alpha 1 features that are not ready even for Alpha 1. And thank you, Castro, for the follow. Thank you very much. Which, again, is okay. This is normal. This is part of the process. I know there's a lot of people that are going to start talking about timelines. And again, it's been this long and that long and who works for them and stuff. But we know people have come and gone. We know people have been hired and we know people that perhaps have been fired, but we do know people have been headhunted from the studio. Steven's kind of admitted that in previous videos. That's why they don't show everybody's faces on their staff directory anymore, just the team leads, because they were getting sniped. So we know stuff like that's happened. That does delay things, because obviously somebody who's responsible for a particular task, who then gives in a week or two's notice, well, now they have to reassign that task. And one of the things that I learned from Defiance, from Tryon Worlds back in Defiance, is there's no perfect way of coding, right? So yes, there's a coding language, and yes, there's common ways of doing it, but sometimes people figure out little shortcuts, or they'll just code things a little differently than what somebody else would do. It's like having an accent, right? There's accents in coding. And mini tangent. So for Tryon Worlds, they had their I think their Westwood Studios, right? Was the team working on Defiance. Well, Tryon basically canned the entire team at Westwood, bringing only 3 or 4 people up to their main office, fired everybody else, and they didn't do it very well. And there's been rumors that those people at Westwood basically locked in code. So when the game code basically got moved up to their primary development office and they fired all the other developers, the people that got that code couldn't really do much with it, right? Because again, shortcuts and accents and stuff like that. It would have taken them a really long time to sort through the code to try and fix things, and it would have delayed the game far too much. So there were bugs in Defiance that were there right up until the end of the 2013 run, and then when they tried to re-release Defiance as Defiance 2050, they basically mapped it off of the exact same base code. So all of those bugs were there in Defiance 2050 relaunch, which basically showed everybody in the community that it wasn't a rebuild of the game like we all thought it was supposed to be. It was just a copy paste, and then they just slapped a few extra coats of paint and added a couple of new features that really didn't make the game any better. So those things slow down game development. I don't know if that's happening here, but it's possible. And I'm not saying it's malicious, right? I'm just saying that there are people come and go. That does slow things down. You got to rehire, retrain, stuff like that. So I think that can potentially slow down a little bit of your development. COVID, obviously, has been a huge issue. For this, I mean, the art guys, they're not bothered by COVID, but the engineering, the coders, I think COVID has probably been really, really hard because you can't react as fast when everybody's remote, right? You have a central server, you're changing code, you're uploading code, but other people are doing things. Maybe you're not all communicating, opens up bugs, because it's not like you can just walk across the aisle or look across at another desk and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Okay. Right. Because you're not in that environment, you're not always doing that double check. Or it could be, hey, I'm having a bit of a rough spot with this. Oh, okay, I'll just come over and help you. Right now, you got to do a Zoom call or Skype or whatever. That takes time. It slows everything down. And again, these are all things that I'm aware of and that I have talked about. And I have said, this is why I expected there to be delays. I don't think this will be the last delay. I think, because of the previous delays that we've seen, I'm not saying that there's an endemic issues here. I'm not saying that, there are things that we should really be worried about. I'm just saying that what they're attempting to do with Ashes of Creation is so different and nobody else has done it that they're going to have a lot of bugs trying to make it work. And clearly, a lot of the core features, the fundamental, I'm talking foundation here, right? Like a lot of people, I think, are thinking about this Alpha 1 like a beta. Like you can go into the game and just start playing it. And no, that's not even close to what this is going to be like. This is about, they poured the concrete, right? Have you ever seen a building go up, right? They put the wooden frames up, pour in the concrete to form a basement, and then from there they have to build the frame. Well, that basement, that's your foundation, right? They pour the concrete for the basement walls, the basement floor, and then they build up on top of that, and that holds up the rest of the structure. Now, you have to make sure that your walls are sturdy, right? You don't want cracks. Got to make sure that your framing is good, right? For your windows and your doors. I mean, often your heater and your water tank and whatever, that's in the basement. Or if you think about even a bigger building, there's like boiler rooms or whatever. There's a lot that goes in the basement. There's a lot that goes in the foundation that makes the rest of the building possible. And so you need to go in and test those foundations, right? You got to go in and you got to, not tap on the walls, you make sure everything's firm, because everything that you put on top of that requires that foundation to be firm and strong. And clearly, they want to use the Alpha 1s to test the foundational elements. And that's exactly what they should be doing. I'm very happy to hear that. So this statement does make me very happy, but it also says that those features just right now are not ready. And this is why I have said continuously, they are not Alpha 1 ready. I think they still need a year. I honestly, I would not be angry or upset if Steven came out and said, listen, we are going to delay Alpha 1 for, fall 2021, right? Give them another 8 months, right? Because right now they're delaying it, another 2 months or 3 months? I think they should push it back to fall. I think they should continue to do the previews, but lift the NDA. And then wait for, and don't call it an Alpha 1, right? Because they are not Alpha 1. They're still Alpha 0, firmly Alpha 0. I mean, we only have 3 classes. You got Cleric, you got Mage, and they got their Warrior. We've seen Ranger, but we haven't seen an actual Ranger in their game in quite some time. So whatever they showed us initially about the Ranger class, they've had to change, right? They're obviously probably retooling the character or something like that. And again, that's going to happen. There's supposed to be 8 primary classes. You're only testing 3. It's not even 50% of your classes that you're going to be testing in an Alpha 1. You need, I would say for an Alpha 1, you need to have your 8 primary classes so that people can do some basic testing. That they can see how these classes intermix and stuff like that. We know their grouping works. That's nice. We haven't really seen a whole lot of looting. We've seen some basic quests, so we know that works. But we also know a lot of that stuff kind of worked back from Apocalypse, right? So those foundational elements. Again, they're not showing us anything new. They have not shown anything new as far as foundational elements of the game in months. Well, the last time I think is when they showed the node upgrading, and I think it was the caravan in the forest battle, right? When they showed the first caravan. That's the last thing that stands out in my mind of a foundational aspect of the game that they have shown us. They've shown us a castle with a caravan PvP fight. Okay, well, that's just the same thing in a different setting. We saw a PvP battle this last one. The previous month, Steven was supposed to show us this big rock structure bay area, and he spent the entire time looking for bacon and squirreled off and did other things. We never actually got him to show us by looking up this expanse. We never got that. Completely squirrel, right? And I get that. I mean, he's excited about this game, and he should be. They've made good progress, but I just think that their sales and marketing right now is not very good. And I've given lots of ideas and suggestions in previous videos. So anyways, they want the performance to be reflective of the insights they've gained through the preview test. Okay, well, this is where I think, again, if they wanted to be more honest and transparent and more open, give us specifics, right? You don't have to bring it down to specific code, but just say, hey, we're struggling on making the node system fire off as effectively as we'd like with other nodes, because maybe they can make one node level up, but they're having a hard time locking out the nodes adjacent to it. So you could technically have 2 metropolises side by side. And maybe that's a bit of a bug. Or they're having maybe a bit of a bug in how it's procedurally generating, right? So as the node upgrades, the world around it isn't being leveled, or they're not building buildings. Those are simple. Yeah, I mean, they're not maybe so simple to code, but they're simple things to tell us that kind of gives us an inkling of where they're at. Now, that being said, you could also run into the situation, though, that they have some significant issues here. they don't want us to know about because it could cause more worry, and you don't want people starting to put in refund requests. But so I understand there's a fine line they're trying to tread here from, are these major serious issues, or are these just minor little glitches that they want to polish? Because if they're minor little issues that you want to polish, I'm sorry, but that's not a good enough excuse, I think, to tell your community that, you need to delay months um, just to polish stuff. That's telling me that there's probably a lot more going on than what they are telling us. Let's finish this. In the meantime, we will continue with our periodic spot testing under NDA with our glorious Alpha 1 testers as we work to deploy updates between now and May's testing. We, of course, will continue to show footage of testing in our March and April live stream updates. Okay, I would like to see footage of testing from, the previous few months, because we have not seen that. You're calling it footage of testing, but I'm sorry. PvP battle on the beach where you're using GM hacks, that's not testing. Okay. In almost every situation, they're using GM hacks. That's not testing. That is, you're curating content. You're, for whatever reason, and again, it's omission. I'm not saying anyone's lying, but it's not being completely honest with this. And there are some of us that are intelligent enough to see through this and say, listen, like, you're not being absolutely honest with your community here. And we want to support Ashes of Creation. We want to support Intrepid Studios, but I can't support the game if I don't know where it needs the support. All right. I can't be here just hype up the game, woot woot, right? Not having at least a basic understanding of what are the objections that I need to help counter or overcome from other community members, from other people who are watching this game and thinking about getting in, and then they come and say, well, what about this, and what about that, and what about this? Well, they just needed more polish. That's not a good answer. That doesn't help your community. So please make sure to tune in there and on our socials for more updates. It's been a thrill to see the world of Vera take shape with each update. So this is basically Steven's just, again, he's pumping the gas, right? He's trying to pump everything up. This would not be possible without the help of our glorious community. Well, if we take his word on it that he is funding this game 100%, it would absolutely be possible without the community. That's be honest. So, yeah, obviously he needs our money, right? And the hard work of the incredible Alpha 1 testers. I don't know if there's hard work going in to this testing because you've only done 4 days, like twice, maybe 3 times. That's unless you're talking about like the other testers, right? And again, we don't know if there's hard work going on because everybody's under an NDA, right? Like a complete blackout. They can't even talk about, if they're enjoying the experience or not, right? Like, is it a grind when they get in? Like, are they reporting bugs all the time, or, they can't tell us about any of that. And you're not showing us any of the footage that was promised, AOC, from, the December, the February pre-alphas, like I believe was mentioned what we would see, right? We haven't gotten any of that stuff. There's no other players around, so you're obviously recording your footage either on a different server or on a server that is active before or after the test footage, because I would expect that if you have thousands of people on Alpha Island helping you test, we would have seen some random character make it into one of those videos, right? There would have been some random person somewhere. And then that random person would tell other people, and then you'd get more people showing up. Didn't happen. Again, I've done lots of alphas and betas, and I know when you see a GM, it's like, boom, everybody wants to be there, especially if it's a community manager in game or anything like that. And who wouldn't want to be near the Sandal Lord himself, right? So, says here, Yeah, hard work from Alpha One. Thank you all for your continued support, patience, and feedback as we march forward towards our major Alpha One milestone. And again, I don't think they're there yet. So they're looking here, yeah, 1 month Alpha One, June 1st through June 30th. They have a 1 week alpha preview, May 14th to May 21st, and then an intermittent Alpha 1 preview spot testing, March 19th through June 1st. And again, that's under NDA. So, but they have a no NDA in May. So again, it's not a huge wait. It's still a delay, but it's not a huge wait. So that's good. But I would still say that there's still a really good chance of more delays. And again, that's okay. And I constantly repeat myself because there are so many people out there, and Steven said this himself. They think it's like the green light pre-order whatever deal that you can get on Steam or early access and stuff like that, where the game is mostly playable and they're polishing the game. And that's what a lot of people, I think, are thinking about when they think of alphas, right? And that's why the statement he makes up here is really concerning, because that to me, if you're just if you're just polishing, then basically you're telling me that the game is in a very playable state, which would make it Alpha 1 ready, at least Alpha 1, right? And then why do you need an NDA if all it needs is polish? Because, I mean, how many of us are playing Valheim? Early access game. I would say it's still in an alpha state, and it's very playable. Okay? It has lots of little bugs, absolutely, but it's still very playable. It's very basic. There's definitely needs a lot more content, but the foundational elements are there. And that's basically what people are testing, right? And I think for Valheim, they've moved beyond the foundational element issues. And now it is really a lot of polish, and it's building out the world, building out what players can do and stuff like that. That is polish. Ashes of Creation is nowhere near polish. Nowhere near polish. I don't think it's near an Alpha 1 state, as we've been led. If you think Alpha 0, Alpha 1, Alpha 2 would be Valheim. In my opinion, Alpha 2 would be Valheim, where again you're fleshing out the world, you're balancing things of that nature. Alpha 1 is you're still bug testing. You're still trying to find flaws, the big flaws. You're testing databases. You're making sure, again, people aren't falling through the world or getting launched into the sky where they disappear, which still happened in Defiance. And I've seen boats in Valheim do that. So there are still those little things that need polish. So those are my points when it comes to what do I think about the update on the Alpha 1 schedule for Ashes of Creation. I don't think we need to worry about anything yet. There's really nothing in here that seems overly concerning that people should be running and demanding their money back or anything like that. I don't even think there's anything here that people really need to feel like any worry. This is something that happens in development a lot. I think there are realistic concerns. I think they are fair concerns. And I think we just have to, give the team a little bit of trust and faith and hope that these poor choices of words that Steven has here, like polish, are not the best words that could have been used. And that the intent is not that they just literally just want to polish the game. That there are features that are, I don't want to say broken, just not working as intended. And as gamers, we know all about not working as intended. And so I think that's what they're just trying to fix, so that these things work more like they're intended to work for these public alphas and stuff like that. I'm still hoping that we will see a redo of the Alpha 1 access for people. I would love to participate in that. I have played in alphas and betas lots. I know what I'm expected to do and should be doing. So I'm really hoping I can get into that, and I would love to be able to show other people and stream and say, hey, okay, so here's what we're doing. This is why I'm bouncing all around this tree that's on a hill, or why I'm, bouncing against this column of this building, because that's a separate entity from something else, and sometimes they don't marry very well together. And there's just this infinitesimal pixel crack that you hit that pixel the right way and you fall through the world, or you get launched into the sky, or you can climb something that you weren't supposed to be able to climb, like getting on top of Ironforge in World of Warcraft before they allowed flying everywhere, right? So that was kind of that cool special thing that people would do, is get up on top of Ironforge and throw snowballs down at people, and people like, oh my god, how did you get up there? It's so awesome. And then you got to see all the unfinished world bits too, which Blizzard didn't really appreciate too much, but eventually they got over themselves. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you are watching this on one of my other platforms, not Twitch, please like, subscribe, comment. I don't care if you agree or disagree with me, but leave a comment, because it can lead to a conversation, and I will try to respond to everybody at some point. I don't get a lot of comments right now, so it's pretty easy. But thank you very much for spending your time watching this video that's 28 minutes longer than I intended it to be. But you guys know me. I love to talk. It's a radio background thing. Anyways. See you guys later. Thanks so much for hanging out. Big huge thank you to all of my subscribers and supporters: Gramp Games, Kevin6, Upfront Poop Dog, Short Talk, Random Runes, Core Code, Danny Montany, Liger Gaming, Pug Planet, Yodamu, Ornithosophilus, Sagua, and Fenrir. We'll see you guys all in the next video.